Hi, welcome to the Kickass Midlife Method podcast. I'm Rachel Woolston, your host, and I'm joined this evening by some of the women within the Kickass Midlife Method community, and we're discussing understanding macronutrients for midlife women. So what we're going to be covering is what macronutrients are, why balancing them matters, particularly in midlife for women, the impact of an unbalanced diet, and what would be really interesting for many of you to listen to is how you can actually adjust your macro portions, your macro um, uh, balances to suit your preferences. So, for instance, if you quite like food that's high in healthy fats like fishes and nuts and avocados, how you can totally have a higher fat diet and still stick to your weight loss, weight maintenance, or weight gain if you're looking for muscle mass with that kind of diet, or if you like higher carbohydrates. So we're going to be deep diving into that as well. Key considerations for your health when adjusting those macros in that way, and then a reflection on your own macro intake. So firstly, just to cover what are macronutrients. People still get this slightly confused, so it's always worth touching upon this. So they're the three main nutrients that our bodies need in large amounts for energy and overall function. They are the absolute foundations of our diet, play a crucial role in maintaining our health. So protein supports your muscle maintenance, supports hormone production, and really important if you're looking for weight loss is it helps to keep you feeling full. So if you're having protein, it's really worth remembering that you should be having that protein throughout the day, not just in one meal to hit your protein intake. It's throughout the day, and that will keep your blood sugars balanced. Carbohydrate, obviously, as many of you will know, provides energy, but it also supports brain function. So if you're someone who is suffering from perimenopause or menopause and feels constantly tired all the time, it may also be worth looking at whether you're actually having enough carbohydrates. And then your fats. And we're talking about healthy fats here, essential for hormone balance, brain health, and nutrient absorption. You need fats sometimes to process certain vitamins and nutrients so that your body can use them. So a balanced intake of all three in every meal, so we're not just looking across the day, but in every meal will help with your metabolism, your energy, emotion, and emotional well-being. So why a balanced macro intake matters, particularly in midlife. So for menopausal women, really a well-balanced diet just becomes totally crucial. You can kind of get away with it when you're younger, but not once significant hormonal changes occur. So number one, it supports healthy weight management. It helps to reduce fat storage linked to hormonal shifts that always occur during menopause. Related to that, it regulates your blood sugars. So if you're having a high carbohydrate, fast, simple carbohydrate diet, it can often lead to high energy release. Then it crashes, and then you will feel tired and often reach for more, and you'll be in this constant cycle. Maintains muscle mass. We are losing muscle hand over fist once our hormones begin to change. It actually starts in our 30s and then begins to accelerate and drops off a cliff after 50. So unless you are doing strength resistance work and then also following that up with eating sufficient protein, you will lose muscle. And then supports hormone balance. So that will reduce symptoms like mood swings, fatigue, hot flashes, that kind of thing. So what happens if your macros are unbalanced? You're going to get blood sugar fluctuations. So as I said, to re-emphasize what I said in the last slide, it will lead to energy crashes. When you feel tired, what do? You often reach for carbohydrates. That leads to weight gain. So you want to undermine the possibility of cravings by having a balanced diet. Muscle mass, if your protein intake is too low, you're going to lose your muscle mass. Too much unhealthy fats, excessive carbohydrates leads to inflammation. That can eventually lead to chronic inflammation, which research shows again and again is related to chronic disease. And then again, worsened hormone symptoms, hot flashes, brain fog, and poor sleep. So how can you adjust your macros to fit your preferences? Now, you might find this quite interesting. Often you can say you're following a certain diet, whether you're trying to put on muscle, so maybe you're trying to eat more calories, or you're trying to lose weight and you're having less calories, then often people can get hung up on like, oh, I've gone over my fat. I'm in my calorie intake, but I've gone over my fat. I've got to cut down the fat. No, actually, you don't. As long as that's healthy fats, then actually, as long as you're within your nutritional targets, it doesn't actually matter. So you could be someone who actually really likes higher fat foods. And by that, we're not talking about butter and cream. We're talking about avocados, nuts, oily fish, seeds, that kind of thing. If that's you, you can change your macros and aim for a 40-30-30 split, therefore. So so you're following that much more Mediterranean style diet. Similar, it's not keto, similar to keto, which tends to be even higher fat, but it has those kind of benefits from it. Then your higher carb. So you could go so far as a 50% carbohydrate, 25-25 split. Really good if you're fueling for endurance. You like whole grains, fruit, lots of vegetables. That can be a good option for you. And again, let me emphasize that we're talking about complex carbohydrates, not simple carbohydrates. It's not a license to be like, I'm going to go and live on a cake and bread diet. That does not work. We're talking about slow release carbohydrates. And then the balanced macros, which is what I tend to set for most women within the Kickass Midlife Method community because it's good for everything. It's really easy to do. You don't have to think too much about it. It really helps, obviously, with your metabolic health, helps weight loss, weight gain, depending on what your goals are, weight maintenance. So let's dig a little bit deeper into these macro splits and one diet compared to the other. So talking about the higher fat here, again, emphasizing that we're talking about nuts, avocado, chia seeds, olive oils, oily fish, those kind of fats, not cream, not cheese, not cakes and butter. So your potential benefits from this, if you're not perimenopausal, perimenopause, it can support hormone production. So estrogen and progesterone rely on healthy fats. Number one, or one of two things, it really supports feeling full. So it's brilliant for helping to reduce cravings and overeating. Helps stabilize blood sugars. Hence, that's why it helps also to prevent cravings because it prevents that energy crash where you feel so tired that you feel like, oh, I must need more food because I'm so tired. However, caveat for this, these are the women who should not be going for a high fat diet. If you have heart disease or a genetic heart disease risk, then you don't want to go for a high fat diet. Those with gallbladder issues, again, fat heavy diets can be hard to digest. So you don't want to have that kind of macro split if you fit one of those categories. So you should always see your GP first before deciding that you're going to go for that kind of higher fat approach. So your best fat sources are your avocados, olive oil, nuts, omega-3 fatty acids, salmon, chia seeds, flax seeds, which also help reduce inflammation. So your higher carb approach considerations provides quick energy, great for active women, supports serotonin production, so it helps with mood swings, can help with sleep issues, and can be easy to digest for those with a sensitive gut. Although you have to be careful around gluten in perimenopause or menopause because you can develop a gluten intolerance. The other thing that you should be cautious about, and this goes specifically for midlife women, is menopause and changes in hormones can cause an insulin resistance because estrogen helps in glucose metabolism, as we lose that glucose, lose that estrogen, then it affects our insulin, our ability to use insulin to distribute glucose. So a bit like a pre-diabetic phase. So that then can contribute to storage of fat around the belly, which again, in turn, can also contribute to insulin resistance. So you need to be a little bit careful about that. And also those with PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, need to be a bit careful with that. And also, if you've ever had a hormone-sensitive cancer or have that in your family, then you want to avoid anything like this kind of approach, because excess carbohydrates can contribute to inflammation. So again, to emphasize, we're talking about complex carbohydrates here. We're not talking about this being a license to eat cake, biscuits, that kind of thing. We're talking about complex carbohydrates, things like sweet potatoes, legumes like beans, quinoa, low glycemic fruits. So if you're not sure what the glycemic index is, this was invented by scientists to rate foods according to how quickly they release sugar into the body. So low glycemic index, release it slowly. You've got medium ones and then you've got high ones. So low glycemic fruits are things like berries, apples, and whole grains, brown rice, oats, farro, freekeh also, all provide steady sources of energy. And then your balanced approach. This is what I tend to set most women within the Kickass Midlife Method, because it's quite flexible, it's quite sustainable, easy to maintain long term, good for metabolic health in midlife, muscle maintenance, stable blood sugars. You might want to increase your fiber intake with this approach. Fiber can be in chia, flax seeds, vegetables, green leafy vegetables, that kind of thing, which can help with the impact of hormone decline on our gut. So that can be useful to know. And again, we're talking about lean sources of protein in this approach also. It's worth mentioning here, though, that it is possible, if you're working with a coach, to do a cycle. You cycle through different macros. So say, for instance, you could have a period where you do a higher fat approach and then go into a maintenance phase of a balanced macro approach. So what's your macro split? So I would, if you're listening to this, listening back to this, take a moment to reflect, and maybe a couple of weeks to maybe track your food and have a look to see, firstly, do you have a natural preference for a higher fat or a higher carb or a balanced diet? Notice if different foods affect your energy and your menopausal symptoms. So again, keep a track of that. And then if you need help figuring out what works best for you and your body at this life stage, then do get in touch, because understanding your body's unique response to different macronutrient ratios can completely help you create an eating pattern that really works for you, whereas previous things may never have worked, that will support your health, your well-being during menopause and beyond. And crucially, if you're looking to lose weight or put on muscle mass, for instance, that can really help as well. So thanks for joining and listening in to the Kickass Midlife Method podcast on macros. And if you have any questions, do let me know. If you're listening to this back, I'd love you to give this a like